Hello everyone. Wanted to just chuck out a video today. I've been doing quite well recently, putting out videos every day, and I did not want to stop the churning out of videos. Basically, this is going to be a little more unstructured than a few of the last ones. I've had an interesting thing happen today. I was just watching some YouTube, and Bart Ehrman, who I like and dislike, and I'll tell you why. He put out just put out a video in the last couple of days about morality and Christianity, but I realised he's putting out a video, kind of one of his courses called "Did Jesus Exist?" So I signed up for it, and it's free. So I'm going to go through that, and we can talk about what he talks about and see what he has to offer, because he does believe that a Jesus existed, and he had a pop at mythicists, and lots of people make fun of mythicists, and I think it's the most extraordinarily stupid thing to do, because the New Testament is about 90%, 95% complete mythology. So when we're talking about mythicism, what are we talking about? I'm really going to really enjoy going through what he has to say here. A guy called Raphael Atasta went through his book "Did Jesus Exist?" In his own PhD thesis, peer-reviewed. And it's called "Questioning the Historicity of Jesus," and he basically smashes Bart Ehrman's book, talking about and taking you through the presuppositions Bart has and the facts he kind of creates, talking about Q documents, and no, we must make sure we know that Jesus existed, and he has to have existed, based upon texts that we don't have, speculative texts, that eventually made it into what the Gospels became. There's no good evidence at all that any of that makes good sense, in historical sense. These are not historic. This is not an historical methodology, taking conjectural documents that would have come from oral traditions and then saying, well, no, they must have been true. They must be based upon a history here, when, as I've said many times, there's no history of Christianity that comes to us verifiably, indisputably, from the first century at all. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. No Holy Family. There's no mention of the 12 apostles, like 12 of them, or who were all, we can assume, important figures in and of themselves. Many of the individuals that make it into the Gospels, like Jairus' daughter, and Lazarus and so on, Osiris, who was raised from the dead, Osiris, hint hint. So I'm really going to enjoy going through that, and I probably will do a few videos, hopefully, unless I'm not aware of something that Bart Ehrman knows about, any information, any new history, new evidence that would help us ascertain whether Jesus definitely did exist. And I've maintained anyway now for quite a while that Jesus did exist in the first century. Jesus ben Ananias is one of them. He was a prophetic figure. He has an eerily similar last few days and death to Jesus Christ. He's not to be confused, though, with Jesus of Nazareth. That's one Jesus. Jesus ben Gamala as well, a rebel figure. Josephus, I believe, talks about. We do know some stuff about him. He had a host of rebel fishermen that used to go around and in his stead. He was quite probably crucified. We're not entirely sure of that, but and this is all linked in with tax disputes in the first century that led to the Jewish wars. There's another Jesus, and of course we have Yeshua HaNotzri, Jesus the Nazarene, but he came along in no later than 70 BC and had 5 disciples, not 12, and was stoned to death in a place not Jerusalem. Lydia, I think Lydia, is it called? A few miles, 20, 30 miles from Jerusalem. Not the account we get in the New Testament. It's just really strange. I don't think he rose from the dead. I'm pretty sure he didn't, because, yes. Anyway, we have a number of reasons to go with the mythicist argument here. Not least because there are so many mythic tropes and traits that we see regarding Jesus in the New Testament that are completely rehashed Old Testament and pagan motifs: virgin birth, dying, rising, old miracles, stuff like this. So I don't really understand why people like Bart Ehrman are still. I think it's because he has his reputation to uphold, and one of his big books was Did Jesus Exist? There's no evidence that we could possibly but has ever been put before us that Jesus of Nazareth existed. Only the gospel accounts, and then Acts, which is different from obviously not the Gospels. And then St. Paul, and Paul's Messiah is essentially, and it has been very well argued by mythicists, was a celestial Messiah. So yes, all I can say is watch this space. I'm going to put in a lot of effort and see what I can find in this new course. And if there is anything new, I will let everybody know. And if I am wrong, if many of the mythicists out there, and I count myself among the mythicists when it comes to the Gospels, even though I'm not technically a mythicist and I'm certainly not an atheist, I am someone who believes in consciousness behind creation. I am someone who's very much affiliated with Eastern Taoism, Buddhism, and so on. But the same language is taught when you go deep in Christianity and Taoism, the path, the truth, the light, the way. These are things that can be understood esoterically, and we can all muster ourselves, garner the right kind of approach here, mentally and spiritually, to get great insights into creation. Anyway, I think that's basically what I wanted to say. So yeah, but very briefly, very quickly, again, I've looked at, now we've been going through the layers of the composition of essentially the New Testament from Mark to Marcion, and then to Luke and John, and I should focus a little bit more on those two Gospels as well. John especially, because it's rewritten at least once in the form we have it today, and it does portray itself as slightly more of a Gnostic gospel than many Christians will have us believe today. And I do believe in some respects it's a veiled text. It's been through multiple redactions, at least one, and of course it doesn't really have anything to tell us about an historical Jesus. We would find a history there for someone as lofty as Jesus Christ as the Gospels portray him, but we don't find anything there in the first century, which is extremely strange. And I've been going through the pagan attestations of Jesus, and we find them fundamentally lacking. So yeah, we'll have fun with that. I think it's coming out on the 19th of July, so we have a little time to wait. But as far as Bart Ehrman's book "Did Jesus Exist" is concerned, it's woefully lacking. You can check out The Quest for the Historical on the Historicity of Jesus by Raphael Atasta, and it demolishes. It's quite an expensive book, but you can find it online if you know where to look. It's well worth taking a look at if you can get hold of a copy. It's a brilliant book, quite like Richard Carrier's, but it's written slightly differently. Extremely well cited, well written. It's effective in the way it portrays its arguments, and I'm fairly sold on the fact that Latasta there has the winning argument. Anyway, take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.